Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Battleships often served as the centerpieces of task forces, battle groups, squadrons, and as such, they had to issue commands to the other ships in the force. You could do this with radio. Battleships have something like 8 separate radio rooms spread around the vessel. However, if transmit on the radio, anybody can hear you. They might not be able to decode what you're sending, but they can triangulate your position and find out where your fleet is. It's probably fine in peacetime, but in wartime, maybe we don't want people to know where we are. So for ships operating together in a squadron, there are a number of visual means of communication. The first and probably one of the most recognizable is by using signal flags, like this one. And for today's video, we had a request from a viewer. I don't use viewers' names in the videos for privacy, but you know who you are. And the request came with a donation, so we bumped this one up in the order. And they sent out their own personal letter 8 signal flag that we are flying here today. The battleship also has a set of original signal flags in here. But basically, signal flags each represent a letter, a number, or you've got other ones that represent different things. There are repeater pennants, because you might have multiple letter E's, which is a common letter. So when you've got a word like need with 2 E's, you would raise an E and then a repeater pennant. So there's a bunch of different signal flags in here besides just the letters of the alphabet. And they're international. Like, everybody uses the same standard. So even if, say, in the 1980s, we're operating in the Sea of Oshkosh near the Soviet Union, we raise a signal on our signal flags, and they can read it. Soviet ships were operating very close to the battleship, so we could signal them if there was some sort of situation. Hey, back off, we're slowing down here, we don't want you to run into the back of us. So, something like that. So they mean individual letters, and many of them have other meanings. Some of them have internationally known meanings, such as there's a diver in the water, or I'm carrying hazardous explosives. The letter B, which is the big red pennant, just means that, hey, there's hazardous material on board, maybe don't come close. And these are internationally known things. In addition, because if you're giving a command, hey, maybe you don't have enough of these flags to send a whole sentence to the rest of the ships in the fleet, you're going to raise maybe just a 2-letter or 3-letter designator, and that will tell other ships a specific message. So the admiral of the task force would develop a specific set of codes that he puts out to his fleet with all of the likely commands he would give. Turn to starboard. And maybe I don't want to raise all of those letters, but if I raise the 8 flags, and everybody in the fleet knows that that means we're turning to starboard. Pretty simple, right? Battleship New Jersey has signal flag halyards like this on both sides of the ship, and this is located on the O3 level of the bridge. So if you're like me and you've ever looked at the O5 level of the bridge and you've wondered why there's a big notch in it in your model of the ship, that's so that the signal flags from the flag bag here can raise through it up to the yardarm. So why don't you put this on a higher level? The O3 level is the flag bridge. It's where the flag officer, an admiral, would command from. So he's the one who's giving commands to the fleet. It makes sense that all the signaling equipment would be right here near him, so he can turn around and say, hey, signal turn to starboard, and it's right here and done. Flag officers are, of course, called flag officers because they fly their own special flag from their flagship, so that all the other ships in the squadron know that ship over there with the flag is the flagship and has the flag officer on the flag bridge. So that's the one you're looking to for all your signals.
Okay, so O3 level signal bridge right underneath the captain's throne. You know, a small little area. You know, not much daylight at all. But it was, you know, where I was at the majority of the time, even if I wasn't on duty, even if we were out and I didn't have duty at that time. I was still up on the bridge. You know, I mean, I had the best seat in the house, I think.
Battleship New Jersey's flag bridge here is a little bit incomplete. So the flag bag sinks down into the officer's stateroom below us. Probably goes through the deck about 4 feet. That way there's enough room for the flags to hang inside of it. So in order to reach down in there, there should be a step right here that the signalman could get up on to reach on. Additionally, there's supposed to be a railing right about here so that the halyards for the flags go from the pin rail here with the side that you would use to pull them down, go up to the yard, and then they come back to the overhead here where they would come down to a railing where you can make them off. And this way, these two lines aren't right next to each other and they're not going to get tangled up. When the ship is moving, there would be a lot of wind blowing the flags stiff so you can see what they are, but it would also cause them to get tangled up in their lines. If the lines were right next to each other, it could wrap around themselves. So the battleship's got room. We can space these lines out. When we replaced the teak deck up here, we cut those off because they were mostly rusted away, and we haven't gotten around to reinstalling them yet. So that is a future project. Maybe if you throw some donations our way, we'll bump that up the order. But our deck crew moved on from here to other areas on the ship. Be sure to come on board and see the excellent work they're doing. So we'll come back to this at some point in the future. So we've already talked about how signal flags are good for sending pre-recorded messages, so to speak. If you've told everyone in the fleet to be prepared for a turn to starboard, and what the signal for that is, they know what it is. If everybody knows that Bravo always means that you're carrying hazardous material, they know what it means when you raise that flag. But what happens when you have to send a full sentence? And why the heck are signalmen called skivvy wavers? Skivvies are your boxers, and there's 2 other visual means of communication that can be conducted here on the flag bridge. The first of that is semaphore. So semaphore flags are the little flags on sticks that you see them waving around, and different arm positions mean different letters. And the flag is just there to be a bright, colorful, wavy thing that you can see moving, so you can see the flag position. And again, there should be a stool here, similar to this one for the signal lamp, that you would stand on, because many of the positions involve your hand at the down position. People need to be able to see. So you would be standing up a little bit above the rail so they can see all of your arm positions. To help see what other people are sending, each side of the bridge wing has big eyes like this one. Isn't the Navy great at naming things? These still work, and you can check them out when you're on our tour. I like to watch what my coworkers are doing down in ticketing, see how long the line is if we're about to get busy.
Well, I mean, it was from ship to ship communications, flag hoist, obviously, from ship to ship. You can see the flags from, miles, especially using the big eyes. And then, from close range, semaphore semaphore flags and flashing light, which all took. It wasn't really that big of a job. It wasn't really that big a deal. So.
In addition to those sorts of things, hey, maybe that doesn't work so great at night. Well, we've got 12-inch search signal lamps like this one, which have shutters in them so you can blink messages using Morse code. During most of the ship's career, we also had big 24-inch carbon arc searchlights, which had an iris and a push button you could hit to send a really big message. That's kind of obsolete by the 1980s, so they removed those. But we do have these 12-inch search signal lights all over the ship. So that's some of the non-verbal types of communication that the ship performs. It's all done here on the 03 level flag bridge. If you've got any questions about this stuff, or any comments about maybe you've got relatives who were skivvy wavers, let us know in the comment section down below. And remember, if you send us a donation along with your video suggestion, that will bump it higher up in the order. We've got a list of 30, 40 videos we want to film, and you make a suggestion, you ask a question that we think is worthy of making its own video about, we will get to it eventually. But if you want to bump it up in the order, we will take suggestions along with donations to get it out there. We're shooting this at the end of May, and June is already pretty full, not just because so many people have donated, but we've got some trips planned in June that I think you guys will like. So make sure you keep tuning in. Remember, we're releasing 5 videos a week. And that's all thanks to the donations we've gotten from you guys. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, but also from a number of businesses and private individuals like yourselves. Those donations are what let us do this as a large part of our job. Another way to support us is by liking, sharing, and subscribing. That will also let you know when we're putting out new content. And remember, we're putting out a lot of content every week. Thanks for watching.